It's so true, and I have so many stories like this. Here are some of my favorite things that have happened with entities that are very positive. Another time, my friend Dean unfortunately passed away. He was a good friend of mine in 9th grade. He passed away because he had a massive asthma attack in the middle of the night. It was very sad. And then a year later, I had a massive asthma attack in the middle of the night. And I woke up to a guy's voice saying, "Alex," like really, really loud. And I'm pretty sure because I woke up, I was able to take my medicine. It saved my life. And I'm very certain that that was actually Dean who woke me up. And then there's this story with my friend's grandmother, or I thought it was her mom, but it ended up being her grandmother who had passed like years prior. I've also had these experiences a lot because I think being a paranormal investigator, listen, I don't know, was it the chicken or the egg? Because I've had these experiences since I was a child. The spirit world and me are like constantly kind of overlapping and communicating. One crazy experience I had, I was out at the park and I was sitting there talking to a spirit, which sounds absolutely bonkers, but I had been followed by this like middle-aged man for weeks at this point. I sat down and I was like, "Let me take a picture of you," which sounds so wild, but I was like, you know what? I'm certain there's someone following me because I kept seeing him, I kept feeling him. And I was just running with it at the time. I took a picture and there was this crazy white mist and it was in a pitch black park, so there's no lights. I know that there's a ghost sitting next to me right now that won't leave me alone. So I was thinking about where I could have picked him up because he was sad. This man was bawling his eyes out constantly and following me around. And I'm like, okay, you obviously have a message that you're trying to tell somebody. So I like sat and thought about it, and I had been to a party where I was interacting with a girl I had just met. And I think he belonged to her somehow, if that makes sense. So I found her on Facebook. This is so wild. I found her on Facebook and I was like, listen, this is going to sound absolutely bonkers. Please don't judge me for it. But there is a spirit with me that has not left my side since I met you. And he is crying his eyes out, saying how sorry he is, how much he misses his family. He's just very, very sad. She didn't respond to me. She left me on red. And I was like, crap, like she's going to be telling people I'm so weird. So then I think it was like 2 days later, she writes me back and she's like, at first this freaked me out, but this is what she said. But as it turns out, my uncle died by an overdose. He overdosed and left behind a pregnant wife and a son. I'm going to let them know that you said that because it sounds so much like him because I described what he looked like. And that was another really intense moment where I was like, these spirits are not all scary and they're not all terrifying and out to get us. Every single one of them is unique. There's different situations with spirits. They could be like this guy who just had a really bad life and he was wandering around trying to get the message back to his wife. When people pass over, if it is traumatic, I do believe that there could be a part of them stuck there. But I don't believe that the entirety of someone's soul is stuck in that traumatic moment. I think that there might be a fragment of them. And maybe it needs to play out. Maybe it still continues because it's something that they're going through in their way, digesting what it is that happened to them, and then eventually they'll move on. But I'm going to do some experimenting with my spirit box and maybe ask them that because I've always been curious if that has any truth to it. I've purposely put myself in situations where they were calling it demonic and it was not demonic. Like, most of these spirits are not scary spirits. They're not. They're curious, they have stories, they have interesting personalities, and just like humans, like some humans kind of are scary, but it's just how you look at it and the perspective that you bring to the table. What I'm getting at, most of the time they're very nice. There's nothing to be afraid of, honestly. And I have only ran into maybe 2 or 3 negative entities that were just full of malice and only wanted to like hurt people. But it wasn't like hurt people, they just wanted to feed on fear. They like enjoyed the negative emotions that we create because I don't know if it was feeding them exactly. I could go into that on another day, but there's only been a few of those that I've run into, and those you don't need to be afraid of. They're feeding off of your fear anyway, so if you're like, oh, I'm not scared of you, they're not going to do anything. If you're terrified of spirits, a really good way to make one go away, if you feel like there's one in your house you don't want, is just to tell it to leave. My crazy ass will throw punches in the air, and I'll be like, get out of my room, I'll punch you in the face, and it works. It's so stupid, but it works. You're forcibly removing an energy, even if it is punching something in the air, will work. Like, your words have a lot of power. This is our realm, not theirs, technically. We're the ones who are experiencing it, and this crossover happens a lot. And you can just say, leave me alone, and it happens. This was a very long video, and I hope you all have a great day.